Well, we sure do like them flat these days, don't we? We like this slab-like appearance. And the thing that makes a big deal to me about this slab-sided appearance is this is a Hyundai Santa Fe, the new model, the next generation, the new generation, if you will. And what's different about it is its entire shape. Because the original Santa Fe's were always more, let's just say, aerodynamically sound in terms of their curvy nature. Their styling was such that it was very, very aerodynamic, almost egg-like. If you took an egg and you put a bunch of wheels on it, it was sort of like an egg when it first appeared, and then over time it's gotten a little bit more SUV-like, and now with the new generation, we have a very, very wagon-esque appearance, and as a result of that, we have a lot of room in it. But this is very special, this particular 2026 Santa Fe Calligraphy, because not only does it have all-wheel drive, which is great, but it's a hybrid. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at a great big vehicle with a whole lot of room in it, with this configuration designed to house 6 human beings on the inside, and it gets mileage in the 30s. And that is pretty remarkable considering it is anything but a small vehicle. So how do they do this packaging? How do they do this amazing occurrence where you have both good gas mileage and tons of room, and you can even tow a little trailer with it? How about that? The answer is hybridization, and we'll dig into it right now. The color is great. I'd tell you the exact name of the color, but I have no idea what it is because I don't have a Monroney on this yet. But the wheelbase is 110 inches. The engine is a 1.6 liter turbocharged gas engine coupled with a electric motor that puts out, I think it puts out about 40 horsepower or something like that. I'll get into the details when we get under the hood. But here's our 2026 Calligraphy, which I think is pretty much the top of the line in the Hyundai Santa Fe line. And I do love this color. It is beautiful. And the thing that's so interesting to me about it, the Santa Fe really breaks ranks, in my opinion, with most of the styling in the rest of the Hyundai family, even the SUVs. It is a big box. It's much more Palisade-like than the old Santa Fe, that's for sure. And are they on the same chassis? I don't know. I don't think so. But then again, of course, more and more manufacturers are going the route of what they call a universal platform or a world platform, that they basically take the same basic chassis and build everything off of it. And that varies pretty dramatically depending on who you're talking about, what type of vehicle, because some of these things, I mean, this isn't a Sonata, underneath here. This is it's a much more strict, what I would call a more heavy-duty type of unibody construction. Hyundai, to the best of my knowledge in the United States, has never had a body-on-frame vehicle. They've always done unibody construction. And that means, of course, you have a subframe where all your suspension components are bolted onto. And there's good and bad advantages to having a unibody construction. With most pure automotive applications, it's fine. It's just fine. You have a nice stiff body. But when you get to the truck realm, there's additional stress that goes onto the chassis that you really need to look out for and deal with. And that's why when you get heavier and heavier and heavier, eventually you end up on a body on frame school bus type construction because that way the heavy-duty frame can take most of the strain that the drivetrains undergo. So you can tow with this vehicle. You can tow, if you have a braked trailer, you can tow up to 2,000 pounds with it. And that's quite good, but it's not huge, obviously. You can do a lot better if you get the alternate to this is this thing comes in also a 2.5 liter. The Santa Fe itself comes in a 2.5. Let's try that again. A 2.5 liter turbocharged inline four that has more power than this, because this puts out a grand total of 231 horsepower. So you have a lot of variations with the Santa Fe now to really suit it to your lifestyle. You can get front wheel drive, or like this, you can get the H-Track Hyundai all-wheel drive system. And unlike most, it's probably about 50-50 in the realm. A lot of all-wheel drive hybrids out there use an electric motor for the rear drivetrain. This vehicle uses a conventional system in that you have a inline four-cylinder engine, which is then boosted with an electric motor that is strong enough to actually propel the vehicle on its own for short stints. And then you have just a conventional drive shaft that runs off the transmission and runs to the rear drivetrain. So while that may not be quite as efficient as having an electric motor back there, and you don't have all the great things that gives you too in terms of regenerative braking, you do have a more rugged setup, which is exactly what some people need in their all-wheel drive vehicle. So, speaking of rugged, let's take a look under the hood. There must be ruggedness there because this is an all-wheel drive sport utility vehicle. Let's take a peek. Why do I like Hyundais? Well, there's a lot of things I like about them, but one of the things that's my favorite quality that Hyundais have in general, and this goes from the engine bay all the way into the interior and how they do their controls, is they're very straightforward. They don't put a lot of frippery on stuff. They stick with a lot of let's just say tested technology that works. And one of the things I love about this engine is we have on this vehicle a very wide front engine bay, right? Then we got a little engine, a 1.6 liter, which is pretty small actually, but this is turbocharged and it is augmented by a hybrid system with an electric motor. So it makes it very, very easy. You have a lot of space around this engine. I can show you everything. We'll start with, and pardon my boom shadow, I am being followed by a boom shadow, as heard on film sets everywhere over the years. What we have is we come in from here with our air intake, right? This is our filter box right here. Then this goes down into where the turbocharging area. The turbocharging area and thus the exhaust manifold is on the back of the vehicle, which is very common. Not the back of the vehicle. It's actually the back of the engine, in between the engine and the firewall. Very common placement for turbochargers. But in the Hyundai's case, there's a lot of space around it. You can actually get to it if you need to fiddle. Look at all the wires and everything else you got to mess with. But it goes in to their inline four-cylinder engine. The turbocharger's down there. It spins an impeller that takes that air and compresses it, and then it comes all the way around, and you can actually see, and again, pardon my boom shadow, I'm gonna put my notes there, all the way down in here is where we have our intercooler. So the hot compressed air that comes out of the turbocharger then goes through the intercooler, then goes into this device here, and then it goes directly into the gasoline direct injection fuel injection system. Now, the only bad thing about that, I mean, like I said, I love the fact that you can see all that. You can actually look down in there and see the intercooler very clearly, which on a lot of vehicles, you got to pull the whole front end off of it to find the thing. But the only thing I don't like about it is it's just gasoline direct injection. And what does that mean? Well, for those of you familiar with the genre, Gasoline direct injection engines direct the fuel, inject it rather, directly into the cylinder below where the valves are. So what happens is it has to overcome the pressure that's in the cylinders in order to squirt the fuel in, because if the cylinder pressure, the compression of the engine, is such that it's stronger than the amount of the force behind the fuel being put into it, it'll never make it into the cylinder. So that's why they're noisy and they're powerful, the fuel injection systems on gasoline direct injection systems. Now, that's not really the bad part, although it always frightens me, because you think if you were in an accident and a fuel line ruptured, it would be shooting gas everywhere, but they're really good at developing systems that stop that from happening. If there's any kind of a breach in the system, it stops the pump immediately, like microseconds and that kind of thing, to keep that from happening. But the bad thing about gasoline direct injection on its own is over time, usually around, I'd say 100,000 miles or so, there tends to be a carbon buildup in the cylinders. And when that happens, camera shadow. When that happens, you got to clean it out. And in order to do that, you basically need to take it. They have ways of doing it at dealerships that are not a big deal. But it's just something that happens over time, and it's a pain. Now, what most manufacturers are going to, and I think Toyota was one of the first to do this, they have, in addition to gasoline direct injection, they have port fuel injection, where the fuel is actually injected into the stream of the intake ports, and then it mixes and goes into the cylinder through the valves that way, and that helps keep the valves clean of any kind of carbon buildup. So with Toyota, when they have both systems, it switches back and forth from gasoline direct injection to port fuel injection, optimizing not only efficiency, because sometimes gas direct is better than port fuel injection, sometimes it's the other way around. But when you have both systems, yes, you do add complexity, but at the same time, it also takes care of some other problems. So Hyundai has not elected to do that on their engines. As far as I know, I think they're all pretty much gasoline direct injection. But there's more to it than that. I mean, they may have come up with some wizardry that takes care of that carbon problem, and it's not something you're going to have often. Like I said, it usually happens when the miles start to head towards about 100,000 miles and stuff. Then they have to be cleaned out. So if that's the case, it's not a big deal, because you're not going to have that done but 2 or 3 times during the life you have with your car, unless you keep it for like 500,000 miles, and I say God bless you if you do. So anyway, we have our ICE engine, our internal combustion engine right here, all 1.6 liters of it, and it puts out, oh, sorry, I dropped that. The engine itself puts out 178 horsepower at 5,500 RPM and 195 foot-pounds of torque between 1,500 and 4,500 RPM. And the torque, did I just mention the torque? I'm jumping over to the electric. Here's our electric side, and there's an electric motor involved with all this, and that electric motor is a 44.2 kilowatt, which is about 60 horsepower, and it develops that between 1,600 and 2,000 RPM. That's really interesting that Hyundai mentions the RPMs, because usually with electric motors, the torque is usually from 0 to infinity kind of thing, but they're being much more precise about the torque curve on that, which is fascinating. Incidentally, the electric battery is powered by a lithium-ion battery of 1.49 kilowatts, and so the combination of these numbers don't always add up because of losses in the drivetrain and other things, but the total output of this system is 231 horsepower altogether. And the transmission is a 6-speed automatic. As far as I know, it seems like it is, but it seems to be a conventional automatic transmission. But I always wonder about that, because most hybrids have something called a continuously variable transmission that's electronic, meaning ultimately that it's an electric motor system. But according to Hyundai, and why would they tell us if it wasn't the way it is, it's a conventional transmission. And instead of paddle shifters on this, you have regenerative paddles on there to increase your regenerative braking. Yeah, I know you love regenerative braking. How you doing, buddy? Oh, someone's here. A dog's about to descend upon me, I know it. So we have 231 total horsepower, 6-speed automatic transmission. As you can see, something that surprises me, you've got turbocharging, and you've got the cooling necessary for the electric motor, and you have the cooling necessary for the internal combustion engine. And here we just have our little reservoir right here. I don't see any others that are coolant oriented, so I'm not sure how they do that at Hyundai, but they do. They sure like their orange cables for their electrics. Look at all this. It's mind-boggling, all the electricity. But again, this goes into that primarily a front drive vehicle, but it is, when it has the H-Track Hyundai all-wheel drive system, we have a drive shaft run into the rear end instead of an electric motor back there. And you have your all-wheel drive system, which is good. It's more durable and tougher than a electric all-wheel drive system, at least in my experience. It's an interesting choice they've made, but it's also once again, a simple, logical choice. Instead of going too much with the technology, it's going to a more mechanical type of system, which is probably going to prove to be more reliable ultimately, I think. Only time will tell. Let's look at the rest of this exterior, shall we? Bye-bye, motor. I love this motor. There's so much room around it. Oh, we got some wheels here, don't we? Here is our tire size, which is is that a 255 45 R20, 20-inch wheels. Holy cow, that's a big wheel. But as you can see, we have a very substantial bit of wheelage here, as well as pretty substantial. They look almost small because of the size of the wheel. Your front brake disc rotor caliper setup, and interesting, it's got 5 lugs instead of 6. I don't know why. It's a very interesting variation on different vehicles about whether they use 5 lugs or 6 lugs. And there's your lug. You got your lug bolts right here. It's right there. But it's just a choice that is made for all kinds of different engineering reasons, and they're always trying to make the wheels as light as possible in order to reduce unsprung weight, because your suspension just generally works a lot better that way. But they're always doing stuff like putting on great big giant 20-inch wheels instead of using a smaller tire. A lot of that, is it pure fashion? Well, I don't know. Some people, that's a big debate among people, because they say you can put bigger brakes on it if you have larger wheels, which is true, but you can also use a degree of offset in order to compensate for that, for those big brakes, and still keep a more modest tire size. Here we have the Pirelli Scorpion. It's a Scorpion MS, mud and snow. Which is a fine tire. Pirelli makes some real good. This is just your general use, all-season type of tire. This is not an off-road grabber type of thing. There is a version of the Hyundai Santa Fe that is a little more off-road oriented, but this is kind of a general use type of tire, as is the vehicle. This is not a hardcore off-road vehicle, but I believe that the Hyundai that does have the more off-roady setup has a little more ground clearance too, because this thing has not got a whole hell of a lot. Now if you look here at our actually it's a 111-inch wheelbase roughly. It's 110.8. You can see it's very uniform in its compartmentalization. The front and the back doors are about the same size roughly, so it's devoting a lot of the passenger room compartment to cargo and to carrying cargo, which is a very nice thing for it to be doing, because this is why you buy a big SUV like this in the first place. I say big, it's considered a mid-size, I think, but overall it's a very, very substantial vehicle in terms of room inside and out. As a matter of fact, why don't we take a look, you and I, in this cargo area back here, we do of course have a power operated liftgate. Whee! And there we have some statistics for you. We are a 3-row SUV, by the way. I haven't mentioned that before. That's dumb. Well, it is 3 rows, and in this particular configuration, we have captain's chairs. Hence the fact that it's a 6-passenger vehicle. I always wonder about the name passenger here, because one of them's the driver. So I say it's a 1-driver, 5-passenger. That's the way I look at it. Very, very roomy. Nice big access point here with your lift gate, because it's at a fairly perfect height, I think, for general use of lifting heavy objects into the back of it. That's a real interesting thing with various SUVs, because if you put it lower, you'd think right off the bat, yeah, it's easier to load it because the load floor is lower, but sometimes that's not the case if you're carrying something heavy. It's nice to have something that's a little bit higher so you don't have to bend over as much to pick it up and unload the car. Just food for thought. We have a very nice finished area. Right now we have our 3rd row undeployed. I could deploy it for you though. Another thing about Hyundais, is it's so easy to do these things. Bang. You have your 50-50 for your 3rd row. And how do I put it down, bud? Boots, buddy? I almost said Buzz. I was thinking of who? Buzz Aldrin? I don't know. You do that, and you do that, and bang. There you go. Now, when you have all the seats deployed for passengers, you have a total of 14.6 cubic feet right back here. As you see it before you with the 3rd row deployed, you have 40.5 cubic feet of space, which is a lot. And then if you fold forward the 2nd row, you get a grand total of 79.6, we'll call it 80, cubic feet of space, which is a lot. So again, the utility of this vehicle is excellent. We got all kinds of doobobs and thingies back here. We got a 115 volt AC outlet. It's a maximum of 150 watts, which is, not great, but not that bad. You have rear air conditioning controls. You got a USB-C port. And, oh wow, 2nd row. What happens if I do this? Look at that. The 2nd row is powered. And I can lower it just like this using this power control. How convenient. How about that, huh? Now that makes sense. I love the fact that these right here are not electrified, because they don't need to be. You just grab the handle and yank it up. Super easy. However, I love the fact that if you're all the way in the back of the car and you decide it won't quite fit that thing you just bought at your Home Depot or your Lowe's or your Ace Hardware, or best of yet, your local hardware store run by your mom and pops, you can easily lower that seat from back here. Again, this is the Hyundai thing, man. Logical, makes sense, useful. Do we have a spare tire? Do we? Of course not. With a 3rd row, a lot of times that takes up a lot of the space. They would use the underside of the body for your spare tire. Instead, we have a flat repair kit, as you saw. We got speakers. Here's a 12 volt, 180 watt port, another USB port. And so the people that are residing back here, and later on we'll see how much room that actually is for adults, but they have everything they need. They have the USB ports. They have their air conditioning. Do we have map lights? That looks like a map light, and that looks like a map light. Yeah. So they're well taken care of. You don't have to worry about them. They're a long way from you as you're driving the car, but you don't have to worry too much about them getting into trouble, because they got plenty to keep them positively occupied. Whee! Power. It's all power. So there we go. That is the utility of our exterior. Now this thing I have to look into. I'll do a little thing on it, but this seems the previous Santa Fe I had of the new design had a handle here you could grab to help get up and put stuff on the rack. But in order to do that, I think it had to have running boards, and this particular one is not equipped with running boards. So I don't know. I'm confused. I'll check the owner's manual and I'll get back to you. and let you know exactly what the situation is. Because that's interesting, that is. On the other side, I noticed it had a place to put a conventional key. So there's something interesting going on with that. But anyway, I'll put at the bottom of the screen, if I haven't already, the color name, because this is a beautiful color right here. I really like it. It's a great looking car and a very, very useful vehicle overall. And the big question is, we'll go into the interior and see how much space it has. But the big question to me is, how does this hybrid power train do? It's a big vehicle. The vehicle weighs, it weighs 4,575 pounds. It's not light. Not overly heavy, but not light. So that's a lot for this little 1.6 liter engine to be, well, it has help. I say 1.6. I'm implying that the engine is alone. It's not. It has its good friend, the electric motor. But 231 horsepower, how does that do hauling this thing around? Well, we'll see very shortly. But first, the interior. So here we have our dash, our cluster, if you will, and we're charging, as you can see. Now this right here, I've taped over. Otherwise, you will have the pulsing red eyes of the driver monitor system, which I am not, let's just say I'm not fancy to. I do not agree with. And we have our flat screen. It's just becoming de rigueur on all our new cars for some reason. But yet it is still displaying an analog display through magic and things like that. As you can see right now, our engine is running, so it is putting charge directly into our lithium-ion battery back there in our hybrid. What's this? Is this a button? I don't know what that is. Is it a microphone? Is it a button? Is it a camera? I see you. I see you, sir. Well, anyway, everything's watching you these days. It's kind of scary in a way. But we have our standard cluster here, and there are some choices we can make. If I go over to settings and I go to vehicle and I go to drive mode, digital keys, convenience, climate seats. Let's go to convenience. What's it say? No, seats, climate change, and this kind of thing. What does seats do for us? Seat position change alert displays details of seat position change along with related seat images. Automatic seat access, easy seat. That's of course when the seat will go back when you open the door to get in the vehicle to make it easier to get in. I always turn that off because I just don't like it. Eco vehicle. Start coasting. Suggested when to start coasting. Release accelerator to save fuel. Early, late, and normal. It's on normal. Activating the coasting guide helps users save fuel. It displays the word coast to recommend when to release accelerator. In other words, that's telling you when the car thinks it should be coasting. Oh boy, I could see some dangerous labor issues there. Yeah, I think so. So anyway, let's go back. And what else we have? Door, digital keys, convenience, seats, lights. Drive mode. Now this is important in that we have a couple of things. We have normal and sport in our brake mode, and selects the brake mode, feel, responsiveness, etc. optimized for your driving style. How does it do that? Well, I'm not sure exactly, other than it could have something to do with the regenerative braking system that helps you, more than anything else, it helps reduce brake wear on your mechanical braking system, i.e. your pads and everything else, by switching the generator into switching the electric motor into a generator, which puts drag on the vehicle and slows the vehicle down that way. And we have paddles right here. Here's your plus and here's your negative, that you could actually manually tweak that as you drive to increase or decrease. I like playing with it because when I'm coming down a long hill, I like putting it on maximum when I'm coming up to a stop. That increases our ability to charge the battery a little bit, but it also takes up some of the braking via the electric motor / generator. instead of just using your mechanical braking system. So that's very, very useful. Very useful. Seats, lights, doors, digital keys, convenient. Okay, let's go over here. General. What's general? Oh, that's I just went past what I need to see. This is where we adjust our software and everything else, and I believe this thing had a software update while I had it. That came, it's an over-the-air thing. Those things frighten me. Everything frightens me on new cars. The cluster and the head-up display. Now, we can choose our gauge style. Right now we're on classic. Now we can go to simple, and it's just digital simplicity for those that are vexed and confused by analog. Like, you know, kids nowadays, they can be vexed and confused by various things that no longer exist, that sometimes reappear like analog clocks. And if the button system on old telephones makes sense, but the dial system, whoa, look out. I don't even know if you can get any dial phones these days. We're just about to lose our hardline phone for our house, which we've had for many, many years, simply because they're switching to fiber optics. And you have to have battery power and everything else, and an additional modem and all this other stuff just to have a phone line. And we're not giving the company that anymore. We hate them anyway, so there you go. But that's the kind of thing we're looking at nowadays. All these things are disappearing. Style A is what we have, which you can link it to the drive mode, which we'll go into in a minute. But here's style B, which is greener. I swear that's the eco mode right there. And C, that is red. So does that tell you sport? That must be sport. So we can link it to the drive mode, and then I can come down. It's on eco right now, see? Right there. Eco. And we can change our drive mode very easily with this massive paddle right here. So there goes our sport mode, my drive, which allows you to kind of pick and choose from the other programs as to what you actually like. Then we have snow, and then we have eco. I'll leave it on eco most of the time because I'm real curious as to how fuel efficient this thing is. It's been idling for a long time though to get up to temperature, and also charging the battery. So you know, it depends on the situation. It is fairly cool outside. It's 43. There we go. Now the engine is shut down because we really don't need it right now. So anyway, that is our basic display. Now here we can go to infos, and there's a compass. You can't alter the compass really, but then we can go to what is essentially a monitor for our adaptive braking system. And can't adjust that with your thumb either, but let's go here. Idle mode. Where is what I'm looking for? There we go. Okay, this is my favorite right here. This is what I call the main navigational display in there. Well, it's a different kind of navigation than like your map navigation, but it's navigating through the main menu, which is, it's showing you what mode it's in. This shows you which, either the front or the rear, since this has a H-Track, Hyundai's all-wheel drive system. This tells you what wheels are doing what as you're driving, which can be very interesting and good to know. Tire pressure has to be moving to display that. Here's our engine temperature. We're still pretty cool out there. And here's our, since we last reset the trip odometer, and here's since the last refueling. We've gone 137.6 miles, and we're averaging 31.6 miles per gallon. Not bad for such a big vehicle. Not bad at all. What else? It's a 3-row after all. Don't forget that. It's a 3-row. So on our left stalk is our turn signals, and of course our lighting. Very, very normal. Here we have our cruise control center. And what I was just using here, this is what changes that main menu, and this is what scrolls through that particular menu. That's the sub-menus in the menu, let's put it that way. Here we have smart cruise control conditions not met. I don't know what those conditions are, but that's what it just said. But I'm sure it has something to do with, maybe I don't have my seatbelt on, maybe that's it. Here we have our following distance that we can adjust. I can't actually show it because the conditions are not met. But here's how we adjust our adaptive cruise control following distance. Here's how we introduce lane tracing or lane discipline, or whatever you want to call it, when you have the adaptive cruise control on, that will help keep you in your lane. Does this have the ability to change lanes if you just hit the turn signal? I don't think it does. I think that's more of a Genesis thing in the Hyundai lineup, but anyway, but that's all your cruising right there. And this again is your navigating of your central screen on your instrument cluster. Down here we have our park brake, like so. We have our rheostat adjustment to the light level as far as your instruments, and they say I can take it way down. That's not doing it. There it goes. Or I can take it all the way up. That's where I like it to be, right there. Then we have a remote button for our rear gate, which is powered, of course, and this is our cruise control, deactivate cruise control. Traction control, deactivate. Excuse me. Now, right side, we have modes for our various, you got your AM, your FM, your Sirius. Here's the lowest level that can be used when the system automatically, okay, yeah, thank you. AM, FM, Sirius, and then you also have all kinds of modes. You have sounds of nature. You have a number of different audio choices, and here is your volume level up and down. Here is when you want to speak to the vehicle. Here's this star right here means a instrument that they a control, if you will, that you can put a lot of different things in that particular control depending on what you desire. Very, very straightforward. What isn't initially intuitive to people, if they've not experienced the latest Hyundais, is the shifter. This is our shifter. Instead of having a column thing up here like so, or a shift lever like not here, we have excuse me, our paddle shifter system. And once you get used to it, it's great. You just put your foot on the brake, reverse, and there's our reverse cameras, incidentally, and then neutral, and then drive. And for park is located right here, and now we're parked. And the way it's set up right now, although I think you can set it up to do it automatically, is pull the parking brake. There's our parking brake. Always use your parking brake. So back to the main screen. Let's go to the home. And as we enjoy our sounds of nature, have I left anything out over there? No, I have not. Here's our start stop, by the way. It's in a more conventional. I've had a lot of vehicles lately that put it in strange places. And this is a nice, conventional, easy to locate place to find your start stop button. That can be very important. Here's our map. And that is what we have that is on board, that comes with the vehicle. But you also have access to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay if you want to do that and use your own map system or navigation system, which is what I like to do personally. But the system that comes on the vehicle is great. There's nothing wrong with it. Oh, incidentally, I'm just reminded there is a heads-up display. As you can see, it's not turned on. It looks like every other heads-up display, and I don't like heads-up displays. So it's off while I have it. During my tenure with the vehicle, I turn it off. What happens after we've gone through our navigation? Well, if we go back to the home, we do have a lot. Yes, that's me. Profile settings. Isn't that interesting? We can go to this right here. And why is it going to sounds of nature on the home thing? How about setup? We'll go to setup. But you have a very wide variety of choices here. Oops, what's this do? It does this. Look at this. This is a quick control. I really like this, by the way. You can adjust the volume of your navigation system. You can, the volume and type of navigation alerts, brightness. All this stuff is at your fingertips right there with just a wisp. Now, there's something I should tell you about this this particular touchscreen. It really is a touchscreen. I just had a vehicle that is, and very common on a lot of cars these days. It has a knob right down here
that is a navigational knob. It was originally, the first people that did that, if I remember correctly, was BMW with their iDrive system. And that's how you would navigate the screen. You'd push down to do anything. This has a conventional touchscreen. Now, the only fault I have with it is if you have, I have fairly long arms. If you have fairly short arms, it's a bit of a reach to get to this stuff compared to a lot of other ones. It works fine, but just so you know, there is no other way of actually navigating these screens. It's a true touch screen, for good or ill. Last time I checked, I think it does work fine with gloves too, by the way. So, oh, what's this? Let's have our hybrid display. Yeah, here, oh, I love this. This is telling us about our fuel economy, how much electric motor we're using at the time and everything else. It tells you a little bit of everything. It's got a lot of information on what is going on with your hybrid system, which can be very entertaining actually, because this thing is seamlessly shifting back and forth from the ICE motor, the internal combustion engine, I should say, and the electric motor, and running on solely either one or the other or both together. So this tells you what's going on, and this is how they glean such good fuel economy out of it, is through the interaction of those two things. And that goes all the way back to about the year 2000 with the first Toyota Prius that landed in the United States. And ever since then, we've seen a steady evolution of hybrid vehicles. And they're getting better all the time, in my opinion. This car is unusually good in terms of almost masking the presence of the electric motor when the engine turns on and off. It's very, very subtle. This engine is also interesting because it's turbocharged. So that's another thing you have to deal with if you're a mechanic. It's a fairly complicated drivetrain, but it's not excessively so. And we'll see. Only time will tell in terms of long-term reliability. Hopefully it'll be as reliable. Most hybrids tend to be the most reliable vehicles in a company's lineup. I know that's very true with Toyota. Their hybrids have been the most reliable vehicles they sell, so go figure. Now, down here, you've seen this before. This is just push buttons that are marvelous things for you to access all kinds of things. And then we have true radio knobs. Now, it's always interesting to me how we also have, in the vicinity of the radio knob, we also have our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning knobs just below it. So you can you get one confused with the other? Yeah, technically, if you're being good and keeping your eyes on the road and doing things by feel, except for the fact that what Hyundai's done is they've made these, the radio ones, what they think you're not going to be using all that much because you'll be using controls on the steering or whatever. It's much, much smaller. But the beauty of it is you do have conventional radio knobs which can make navigating the radio very, very easy, as opposed to having to use a touchscreen, which means what? You have to take your eyes off the road. So our climate control system is very, very straightforward, and everything's here. Here's your heated steering, which, boy, does that work. You have both your heating and your ventilation for your front seats. Recirculation, defrost, all that stuff's right there. Very easy to see and very easy to activate. I'm very impressed with all this. Down here we have some more buttons. Here's our drive mode button, which you saw me using earlier. Auto hold, it's probably something to do with the brakes. What happens if I do that? What's it do? The auto hold light comes on right down there next to the ready light, and I believe that will hold you if you're on a hill, and make sure you don't roll back at all before you accelerate off that hill. So I'll play with that. We'll see what it does. Here we have, this is really cool. If you have a cell phone, I don't have mine with me at the moment, but we have two chargers right here, so that you can charge, your passenger can charge their battery using the QI charger. And this says NFC and this one does not. So there's no near field communications here, but I mean there is one here, but there is not one here, which is interesting. But the important thing is, if your cell phone, smartphone has wireless charging, both you and your passenger can simultaneously wirelessly charge their phones. That's great. That's just thinking. That's a good thing to do. Here's our USB-C and our USB-C. This one has battery thrust as well. And very, very convenient and easy to get to right here. Like I said, there is no shift lever down here because it's that paddle over there. Here's our cup holders, and here's a nice, it's not all that big, but it's fairly deep, our console. And we'll slide on over here to our, look at there! It's actually a pretty roomy glove box. Could you get a tablet computer in there? Yep. No problem. And what do we have here? Here's a little space, a little covey, a little cave right there that you can push stuff. And then up here, look at there. There's even more. Can you get a laptop in there? Nah, but you can get all kinds of doodads if you are into doodads. So quite a bit of storage options, hey? I would say so. Now here's our seating. I'm going to go into what this seating. Oh, I don't have the Monroney. Damn, I need to talk to them. Dumb, I forgot to tell them. What is today? Gee, I should have done it 2 days ago. Anyway, we have both heating and ventilation. As you can see, this is perforated for your ventilation. And we have fairly good side bolsters on here. So it's pretty supportive in, let us say, spirited cornering. You also have your nice big, huge bottle storage right over there. And what do we have up top? Well, we have our map lights, and we have our, naturally you can adjust how you want your interior lights to come on when you open the door. And then we have front and rear. Oh yeah, we don't have a panorama, but we do have 2 individual sunroofs. So I could open the shade on that back one, which I'm going to do right now. Look at there. Isn't that nice? So the rear seat passengers do have that to extend their, but the feeling of open ambiance that is enhanced by having a window. I think when I'm driving this thing, I jumped into it and was doing one of my driving sequences, and I think I may have said it didn't have a panoramic roof, and it doesn't, but it does have an individual sunroof for back there. So now here's nice stuff. If you have the rear of the vehicle back there all completely loaded with stuff, look at there. I can see now. Where'd everything go? Well, we have 2 cameras on the back of the vehicle, and one of them is there to tell you what's behind you when your vehicle is full of people and cargo and everything else, thanks to a camera back there, an additional camera back there. First time I ever saw that was on the Toyota RAV4 that we own, and that, folks, I'll tell you right now, that's a real nice feature because you never know when you're going to have dogs, people, all kinds of things, great big large crates, you name it, you could have it in your car. And it will obscure your rear for vision. And nothing's more important than being able to see out of a car. This vehicle, incidentally, has the Hyundai system, which I still think the Honda people came out with it first. But when you have the turn signal on and you're driving, a camera will appear here to show you your blind spot, in addition to the standard blind spot warnings. So, all right, let's look at the rest of our seating real quick here, real quick. As you can see, good sized door, not massive, but good. And there is about 89 degrees of opening angle. And this particular vehicle has captain's chairs. So can we slide forward and back? I believe we can. Let me see. Whee! Yep. You can slide it forward and back. And you have what I consider to be aisle access to your third row, which is, in my opinion, one of the best ways to go because it's the easiest. If you're going to have captain's chairs, why not just do it that way? Having a console back here, I don't think is really the way to go. I think what Hyundai's done here is perfect. You just have a nice little aisle to the third row. So children, dogs, cats, whatever can get in and out easier. What do we have here? Oh, we have a nice deep storage area. USB-C right there. We have grocery hooks, nice. You could absolutely get a smaller laptop, excuse me, a tablet computer in these things. They stretch out. It's really kind of sharp, actually. I like that. We also have, we have our window shades. And how far does our winder come down? 100%. Well, actually, it's 99.5, but we'll call it 100. We'll round it up. But so that's great. We also have, like I said, this big panorama style rear moonroof, which is terrific. Does this open? No, it does not. This is fixed, but it is beautiful. And you saw me open the shade, so you can close the shade completely if the sun is bearing down on people. And somebody's been hard on this headliner here. Boy, howdy. I don't know how that came to be. There's some kind of rambunctious activities back here by a previous tester. Map light, you bet. Very nice subtle map lights. And actually there's no, there's not an armrest except for the armrest that's on the actual seat. And it's very adjustable, as you can see. Nice, nice, huh? Very comfortable back here. The load floor is a little bit higher than normal, than usual, so your legs are slightly higher. But believe me when I tell you, it really doesn't affect anything. You still have quite a bit of room here. And you also have the ability, power to recline. Not a whole hell of a lot, but quite a bit to make yourself super comfortable. We also have power adjustments. Can you see that lowering and raising? Whee! There we are. So you can really fine tune these captain's chairs. If you're gonna, personally, I think in a vehicle like this, you're better off with a bench seat in the second row, but that's just me from a utilitarian standpoint. But if you're gonna put captain's chairs in it, this is the way to do it. I think they've done a real nice job with this. Now, the moment of truth. Well, all vehicles like this, a 3-row vehicle, how is that third row? First of all, the Bose sound system back here is excellent. I have this seat a little bit forward, which is good. So the floor is fairly high, so your knees are fairly high, but you do have good headroom for an adult, and you can you can absolutely sit 2 people back here. We have a rear AC control, we have a USB-C port, and we also have a 115 volt, 150 watt. I think I showed this earlier when I was going over the cargo area, but that's not a hell of a lot of oomph for AC. But that's a lot of things that can charge that way, including if you have a charger for your vehicle, let's say your laptop or something like that, you could probably plug that right in there and get a decent amount of charge out of it. That's just on the right side. On the left side, we just have our USB-C port. Ventilation. Here's a 12 volt back here, which is how many watts? 180 watts. So we're not big on the super powerful electricals back here. And let's face it, most people are going to use type of devices back here. You don't need much. So here we have, how about that? A map light for your third row. So decent room. This seat is back, since you can go forward and back with it. This one's back quite a bit. And this one is forward quite a bit. So that's why I have more. I didn't do that intentionally, by the way, but I do have a lot more room on this side for my legs. So I look at this from the standpoint of it would be perfect for kids. Absolutely ideal for kids back here. But in a pinch, you can absolutely put 2 adults back here. They may complain a little bit, but tell them to just shut up and ride. I'm taking you somewhere. I'm taking you for a ride somewhere, or I'm taking you where you need to be, so just be quiet. Gosh, people in their transportation. So anyway, that's the interior of our rather beautiful Hyundai Santa Fe hybrid. And I'm sorry I don't have the Monroney yet. That's my fault. And I will give you further details about what's actually in this thing equipment-wise. This is the Calligraphy, though. That much I do know, which is kind of the top of the line. And I don't think there's a whole lot they could do to make it more luxurious and useful than they already have, because it's a very, very good vehicle all around, especially when you consider how good the gas mileage is and the range that goes along with that. Hyundai has been doing a real nice job of leaving a lot of the old traditional stuff in place because it works. And it's simple. And if I want to turn the radio on and off, I know exactly where it is by feel. You can do the same thing with some steering wheel controls, but more than likely they're so bunched together in such a manner that you still have to look down to see it. So anyway, that's my rant about that. This car is pretty damn good in most aspects of that. And they also have done something else in Hyundai I really like. The size of the touchscreen is a real logical size. It's primarily designed to use the menu system of the car to get whatever you need to get the car to do. And it also works pretty well for a map. This widescreen portrait landscape format seems to work pretty damn well, as near as I can tell, on all the vehicles I've been on. I'm starting to adjust myself to map usage with a portrait type format on a lot of vehicles when I initially didn't like it. But they've made that work pretty well. But in other areas, it seems like whenever they have a huge touchscreen like Tesla and everything else, they tend to put more and more of the basic controls of the car on that. Why? It's cheaper for them to do it that way. That's the main reason I see. It's not smarter and it's not better, but that's the way they do it. So what else? Some of the nuts and bolts of this Santa Fe hybrid. First of all, the hybrid transitions from using the engine and using the electric motor and or both seems to be very, very smooth. Hyundai has really gotten good at this. They started out a little rough when their very first hybrids start to appear, but they have done a lot since then to improve it. And this latest generation is pretty good. Now the engine itself, this little 1.6 liter inline 4 is quite smooth for an engine like this. It's smoother than a lot of inline 4s, and a lot of that is Hyundai has put these huge structures, semi-structures, superstructures around the engine in terms of motor mounts that help to absorb a lot of vibration that way. It works pretty well. But like I said, the transitions from electric motor, right now we are running on solely the electric motor around this corner, and when I turn around a little bit here, put some gas on it and start uphill slightly, now the engine's running. But it's a very, very subtle kick in, which is great. Incidentally, this car is telling me I've so far driven this car. Let's see now, where is this? I'll get back to this here. Since refueling, I've gone 60 miles, and I still have 470 miles of range left. Take that with your full electrics. You ain't gonna find one that does that. They don't. And then when you have to recharge the vehicle, it'll take you maybe 2 minutes to put gas in it, if that. And it's just, for general driving, I still believe a hybrid is by far the best way to go. Environmentally, it's not quite as good as the electrics, but the electrics, I'm going to keep saying this, they're not as pristine as you might think. There's a lot of things about the process of putting electricity into your car, and man, do they take a lot of electricity to charge those batteries. Everything that says heated on this car is really heated. If you have it on the maximum setting on like the seat heaters or anything, holy cow! Geez, well, I can fry an egg over there while I'm driving, then I get to my destination and my breakfast is ready. You see, I can do that. I always like when things work. You know, that's always the thing. And once this steering is heated up, it's not all that cold. It's, what is it, 39. But the wind, I've been out in the wind, and the wind makes it like 75 below zero. It's a terrible, terrible chill factor. Chill factor, it's not chill factor, it's freeze you solidly to death factor.
is I'm going to turn off my heated steering because it's warm enough for quite some time now. And this stretch of road right here is really, really interesting because it's one of the few around here that they haven't repaved yet. And it shows a lot about a car's suspension. Some cars are fairly smooth on these things until they hit this particular stretch. We have a lot of little cracks in it and things like that. It's been really, it's the weather and salt and everything else they put on this road has really taken its toll. And so you have a lot of frost heaves and all kinds of little things on it. And this vehicle does really nicely. What I would be curious about is if I had the off-road version. Oh, boy, that's really loud and overbearing. My wonderful sounds of nature. The thing about this is a suspension I assume that's primarily tuned for luxury since it's the Calligraphy model. But if I had the off-road model, I'm imagining the suspension is tuned a little bit differently. You never know. Probably is a little stiffer, in which case the ride would be not as impressive on this particular stretch. I need something with some warmth in it. What else do I have? Carbank? No. A summer's not. That's warm. Warmth in winter. That's what I need. It's not winter yet, but it's cold outside. Oh, Andy. So, again, it's a lot of credit to the Hyundai engineers because this is a very, very nice riding vehicle. There's so much about this. I need to compare and contrast this to the Palisade because I believe they have the same general chassis. Palisade, I think, is a little bit bigger. And it's kind of like what the Palisade and the Santa Fe to me are kind of like the Toyota Land Cruiser versus the Toyota 4Runner now. They really are very, very similar to each other. Like, so similar, I don't understand why they actually make both of them. So anyway, we have now had the situation where we have fueled. And this is real interesting to me. I got 30.5 miles per gallon with my 159 miles on this vehicle. Now, I had just tested a Mazda CX-50 hybrid, and it got 30.1. So this thing, even though it's a 3-row vehicle with a lot more room in it than that CX-50, got the same mileage. That's really interesting. Very different vehicles too, very different vehicles. Both were all-wheel drive, but otherwise, and the performance of the Mazda it has a lot stronger, I think a lot more horsepower. What is the horsepower on this? The total horsepower output is 231. Well, it's maybe about what the Mazda is too, roughly that. Adaptive cruise control is bringing me to a stop, and now it should be letting up and accelerating, and there we go. It's saying watch for surrounding vehicles. It always wants to interface with me, and I want to interface with the outside world. I want all my attention there. Naturally, I need the car to interface with me when something's wrong. I need it to interface in terms of navigation, but other than that, don't tell me to take a break. Don't tell me to look for cars around me because I already do that, and I take a break when necessary. Not just because the car doesn't like the way my head is. It doesn't like my face. It doesn't like my face. That's why it does this. That ain't right. That ain't fair. But boy, is this a quiet, smooth, 3-row SUV. On the transmission, I never even talk about transmission. Transmission seems to be very, very smooth also. More of a conventional transmission.
Turn right.
All right. Transmission is supposed to be a more conventional one, and it shifts like one, a 6-speed, but it's very, very smooth in its shifting. And like I said,
when Hyundai first did their first hybrid that they sold in the United States, it had some issues with it as far as refinement goes. But man, have they been doing their homework. I believe the new ones are, all the hybrids from Hyundai are quite good.
Well, look at here. This looks like ample space for a spare tire, and yet there is none. But what it allows us to do here is it allows us to take a real good look at this fantastic superstructure that is right here. This is our subframe that is bolted to the unibody, and this looks like a very substantial subframe. And as you can see, we have equally substantial coil springs. There's a drive shaft right there. Outboard mounted shock absorber right there. Here, or right up here if you wish. And mounted right in here, this is a link to which appears to be an anti-sway bar. And then you have this, as I move forward here, this really stout looking lateral link that is beautifully designed to keep the wheel in correct position. Look at it, look at there, there's the device. But there we are. Very, very adequately fortified for rugged use, I would say, or at least carrying the load that it has to carry, because this is a 3-row SUV after all. So you could have a lot of weight in there. You could have all your passengers and then some cargo. And so this all has to be pretty stout, and it looks the part. The lower arms here look very, very well made. No little cheesy plastic covers on them or anything like that. This is like genuinely stout. But I can't get over how this looks really impressive with its fortification girder type construction. Now here's the most interesting aspect for me. Anyway, this is our hybrid 4-wheel drive, but what we have here is a drive shaft. And why do we have that drive shaft? Because this uses a more conventional type of all-wheel drive system that runs from the transmission straight back here and is powered by either the electric motor or the gas engine, or both together. So if you have to go on a long trail with a lot of all-wheel driving in it, in some ways this is more rugged a setup than what other guys are doing with a fully independent rear-wheel drive system that is 100% electrical. So here you have your clutch actuator thingy right in here that activates your rear differential right here and gets your power out to your rear wheels, just like that. So a bit of a more rugged system. Also some might argue, if those are into arguing, a simpler system, but I'll just say it certainly looks like it's pretty robust. We don't have a hell of a lot of ground clearance here. Again, if you get the off-road version of the Santa Fe though, I think you get more ground clearance. And as far as the underside goes, I'm not real sure if you have, this is all composite stuff right here. This isn't your heavy duty. But it offers some protection of something. I don't know what's there actually. But here we have our fuel tank right there, and that is not super protected. So you might be careful. You got to know when if you're going to drive your vehicle off-road at all, you need to know where all your delicate bits are, because you want to avoid crashing them into things. But overall, a very impressive rear suspension. Not all that super complicated with 99 different links on it, but it does have this beautiful girder construction. This almost looks like a Humvee right there, the original Hummer. So look, it's just a stout looking beast of a thing. And we can see here we have almost full compression on the suspension on this side. Almost full compression. And over here we have almost full extension, up and down. You see the wheel is just barely. Well, actually, this thing has a pretty decent amount of travel, I have to say, because sometimes the wheels, when I park this vehicle in this spot, this wheel right underneath here, right along here, often is almost off the ground, but here it is pretty well ensconced on the pavement. So all in all, an impressive, simple yet
I would say, rugged suspension at the rear here that also delivers a very good, comfortable ride. So, and is more than stout enough to handle all your larger passengers and all their extremely heavy things that they bring with them. So, well done, Hyundai. Very nicely put together back here.
Well, I tell you, this is a very good vehicle for the now. Our 2026 Santa Fe Hybrid Calligraphy all-wheel drive is a base price of $50,250, and with the extra cost paint and shipping and all that, $52,485 is your final price. The overall fuel economy is 34 miles per gallon. I saw just over 30, which, considering I was driving it kind of hard, doing all kinds of things with it, is a very, very satisfactory result. And a really, when you think about it, you got 3 rows in this thing, you got the ground clearance and everything else associated with an SUV, and it drives really nicely. This is a really, really good vehicle for a family and for somebody that just needs a lot of room. And in typical hybrid fashion, it is very, very pump friendly. No matter what happens to gas prices, which who knows what's going to happen to gas prices. I certainly don't. Hey, listen, thanks for watching. And if you're out there driving around, or even if you're not, please be careful. And we will look forward to seeing you next time.
You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.